Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to talk about something really important. What does a person's true character actually look like when it's put to the test? We're diving into two incredible stories of faith, stories of steadfastness that show us what it really means to stand firm when absolutely everything is on the line. So, what is character really tested by? It's a great question, isn't it? I mean, anybody can look like a good person when things are going their way, when life is easy. But real character, the kind that actually means something, that leaves a mark on history, well, that's not revealed in times of comfort. It's forged when the pressure is on. And this is where it all kind of starts. Long before the revelations, before everything, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had a nickname in his city of Mecca. They called him Al-Amin, the trustworthy. Now, this wasn't a title he got later. It was his reputation, given to him by his own community. It just goes to show that his character, his integrity, was the foundation for everything that was about to happen. All right, so our first story is about a woman who faced a real storm of social and psychological pressure, and she did it with this incredible, unshakable resolve. Let's dive into the steadfastness of Khadijah. Now, what's really interesting here is Khadijah's position. She wasn't just anybody. She was this highly respected, very successful, powerhouse businesswoman. And when she looked to hire the prophet, she saw something more than just skill. She saw his character, his profound trustworthiness. That's what drew her to him. It was a partnership built right on that foundation of integrity. So try to picture this scene. The prophet has just had this world-shattering divine experience alone in a cave. He doesn't come home triumphant. He comes home trembling, literally shaking with fear and just this deep uncertainty about what on earth just happened to him. This is a moment of pure, raw, human vulnerability. And in that terrifying moment, these are the very first words of comfort he hears. Not from an angel, but from his wife. By Allah, Allah will never disgrace you. Think about the power of that. This wasn't just, it's going to be okay. This was the first human declaration of belief in his mission. It was immediate, it was absolute, and it was unwavering. So the key here is how her support actually looked. It wasn't just words. First, she gave him comfort, physically and emotionally wrapping him in security when he was terrified. Then she gave belief. She was the very first person, the first believer. And finally, she gave her incredible wealth to fund and support this new, fragile faith against all the opposition that was coming. Okay, now we're going to shift gears completely. We're going from a merchant city to the absolute center of worldly power and tyranny, the palace. And here we find an equally powerful story of conviction, the story of Asiya. Asiya's world could not have been more different from Khadijah's. She was the queen of Egypt, married to the pharaoh, a guy who literally claimed to be God himself. She was living in what you could call a gilded cage, surrounded by just unimaginable luxury, but a cage built on total oppression and disbelief. And this just lays out the choice she had so clearly. On one side, you've got everything this world could possibly offer: incredible wealth, status, power, physical safety. And on the other side, a belief in one God, a dangerous truth that she knew would cost her everything. Her choice tells you exactly what she truly valued. And the pressure she faced was just immense. It wasn't social pressure. This was brutal physical torture, and it was coming from her own husband, the most powerful and feared man in the entire land. And yet, through all of that, her conviction just did not break. Ultimately, her entire story can be boiled down to this one simple, powerful statement. When faced with absolute tyranny, she chose what was true. She chose faith over fear, principle over power. It's as simple and as profound as that. Now, you have to understand, these stories aren't just isolated incidents. They represent a much larger, foundational legacy. They show us women who weren't just participating in history, they were architects of the faith itself. I mean, the prophet himself placed these women in the highest possible regard. Right there alongside Khadijah and Asiya, he named Maryam, the mother of Jesus, who is so revered for her piety, and his own daughter, Fatima, who was known for her incredible devotion and character. And this legacy just kept going. It was carried forward by women like Aisha, another wife of the prophet, who became one of the most important scholars in history. She preserved and then transmitted this huge body of knowledge that continues to shape the faith to this very day. And this quote just nails it. This is the key takeaway about their legacy. They weren't passive figures standing in the background behind great men. No way. They were foundational pillars, holding up the entire structure of the faith with their courage, their wealth, their intellect, and their unshakable belief. So, after all that, what does this actually mean for us today? Let's tie these two powerful stories together and see why they still shine so brightly, even after all these centuries. Just look at this comparison. It's so powerful. You have two completely different worlds, two totally different kinds of pressure. Khadija, a respected community leader, was facing the loss of her status, of becoming a social outcast. Asiya, a queen in a palace, was facing brutal torture and death. And yet, in those completely different circumstances, they made the same fundamental choice. And that's the core lesson. That's the heart of it all. Their stories teach us that steadfastness, that true character, it isn't about the absence of pressure. It's about making a conscious choice to stand up for truth, for your belief, for what is right, especially when the pressure is at its absolute worst. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. We all face pressure in our lives, sometimes big, sometimes small. The stories of Khadija and Asiya show us that these moments aren't just things to get through. They are opportunities. When your moment comes, when the pressure is on, what pillar will you choose to build?